heart of an abandoned toy factory, where the walls whispered secrets of the past and the air was thick with an eerie silence, Poppy, the once beloved doll from Poppy Playtime, stood alone. She had heard stories about another forsaken place, Zoonomaly, an old zoo that had become a breeding ground for monstrous creatures. Poppy knew that the horrors within Zoonomaly threatened not just the world outside, but also her own haunted domain. She had to face these monsters before they spread their terror. One stormy night, Poppy gathered her courage and set off toward the decrepit zoo. Her porcelain face, cracked and worn, reflected a determination fueled by the whispers of the factory's long-forgotten toys. The journey was fraught with danger, the darkness alive with rustling leaves and distant mournful howls. When she arrived at Zoonomaly, the gates creaked open as if welcoming her to her doom. The zoo was a twisted parody of its former self. Vines and moss covered the cages, and the air was thick with a sense of foreboding. As Poppy stepped inside, the gates slammed shut behind her. There was no turning back. She clutched the small key she had brought, a relic from the toy factory that she hoped would help her confront the monstrosities within. The first enclosure she approached once held monkeys, but now it was home to grotesque creatures that looked like the result of a nightmare. They were a horrifying blend of human and beast, their eyes glowing with a malevolent intelligence. Poppy knew she had to be clever. Using her small size to her advantage, she crept past them, her heart pounding in her chest. One wrong move and she'd be caught. As she ventured deeper, Poppy encountered the remnants of what used to be a reptile house. The glass tanks were shattered, and the floor was littered with broken shards. The creatures here were serpentine, with scales that glistened like oil in the dim light. They hissed and slithered, their forked tongues tasting the air. Poppy shivered but pressed on, knowing that she was getting closer to the heart of Zoonomaly. In the central courtyard, she found herself face to face with the ringleader of these abominations, a creature known as the Chimera. It was a horrifying amalgamation of different animals, with the head of a lion, the wings of a bat, and the body of a snake. Its eyes burned with an unholy fire, and its roar shook the very ground beneath Poppy's feet. "You dare enter my domain?" the Chimera growled, its voice a chilling mix of a roar and a hiss. "I have to stop you," Poppy replied, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "You and your creatures cannot be allowed to escape this place." The Chimera laughed, a sound that sent shivers down Poppy's spine. "And how do you, a mere toy, plan to stop us?" Poppy held up the key. "With this. It's a key from my factory, imbued with the power of creation and destruction. I will use it to lock you away forever." The Chimera lunged, its massive form hurtling toward her. Poppy dodged, narrowly avoiding its razor-sharp claws. She scrambled to her feet and ran, the Chimera hot on her heels. She had to find the right place to use the key, a hidden lock that would seal the monsters of Zoonomaly away for good. She ran through the maze of enclosures, her small feet barely making a sound on the overgrown paths. The Chimera's roars echoed behind her, a constant reminder of the danger she was in. Finally, she reached the center of the zoo, where an ancient stone altar stood, overgrown with vines. Poppy placed the key into a hidden slot on the altar. As she turned it, the ground trembled, and a blinding light enveloped the area. The Chimera let out a deafening roar of rage and fear as it was pulled toward the altar, along with all the other creatures of Zoonomaly. They fought against the force, but it was too powerful. One by one, they were sucked into the altar, disappearing into the light. When the last of the monsters had been sealed away, the light faded, and the zoo was silent once more. Poppy collapsed to the ground, exhausted but relieved. She had done it. The monsters were gone, locked away forever. As she made her way back to the toy factory, Poppy couldn't shake the feeling that her fight wasn't over. The darkness that had once inhabited Zoonomaly might return one day, and she needed to be ready. But for now, she had restored peace to both her world and the world outside. Poppy returned to the toy factory, the whispers of the old toys now filled with gratitude and admiration. She knew that as long as she stood guard, the horrors of Zoonomaly would remain a distant memory. And so, with a weary but determined heart, Poppy settled back into her home, ever watchful and ever vigilant, ready to face whatever nightmares might come her way.